My beloved child, listen closely, because this is not a random moment, and this is not a video you found by accident. December 27th stands before you like a narrow gate, and time is moving faster than you realize. What you do in the next 24 hours will quietly, but permanently, decide which path opens before you. Heaven is watching, and Archangel Michael is stepping forward now with urgency in his voice. This message carries weight, not fear but gravity, the holy pleasure, the kind that comes right before destiny shifts. You may already feel it, that strange restlessness, the sense that something is unfinished, the quiet nudge that says, I cannot delay anymore. That is not anxiety. That is God alerting your spirit. Archangel Michael says, time is critical. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now, there is a decision hovering over you, one you've been circling, postponing, or hoping would resolve itself without action. You've told yourself, I just need more clarity. But heaven says clarity has already been given. What's missing is movement. This is why this message found you before December 27th ends its cycle. Because once this window closes, the same opportunity will not return in the same form. My beloved child, hear this carefully. God is not rushing you. He is warning you. There is a difference. Warning comes from fear. Warning comes from love. Archangel Michael is standing guard at a crossroads in your life. On one side is the familiar path, the one that feels safe because you already know its limits. On the other side is a path you've seen only in flashes, moments of hope, sudden visions, quiet dreams you dismissed as unrealistic. That second path requires courage, and courage requires action. This is why heaven says, do not delay. Delay hath been the enemy used against you, not destruction, not failure, but postponement. The enemy did not need to stop you. He only needed to slow you down until the season passed. But now the season is speaking. December 27th carries a divine urgency because it marks a closing and an opening happening at the same time. One door is already creaking shut. Another is unlocking, but it will not stay open forever. You may ask, what exactly must I do? The answer is simpler and heavier than you expect. There is one step you already know you must take. One conversation. One decision. One act of obedience. One truth you've been avoiding because it disrupts comfort. That is the step heaven is pointing to. Archangel Michael says this decision will set alignment. Once you move, other things will begin to move on their own. Resistance will weaken. Confusion will lift. People who were meant to help you will suddenly reappear. But none of that activates until you move first. God is urging you now, not because you are late, but because you are right on the edge. My beloved child, understand this. The next 24 hours are not about perfection. They are about direction. Heaven is not asking you to finish everything. Heaven is asking you to begin the right thing. There is also a warning woven into this message, and it must be spoken gently, but clearly. If you ignore this nudge, you will not be punished, but you will be delayed. And the delay will feel heavier than the action ever would have. Archangel Michael says some of your recent exhaustion is not from doing too much, but from carrying a decision you were meant to release through action. You've been praying for a sign. This is the sign. You've been asking God to confirm. This is the confirmation. The urgency you feel is heaven saying, trust me enough to move. December 27th is not random. It is a spiritual checkpoint. What you choose now will echo into the coming months. One choice leads to momentum. The other leads to repetition. And God does not want you repeating this lesson again. My beloved child, take a deep breath. This message is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to wake you up gently but firmly. You are not alone in this moment. Archangel Michael is guarding your step. God's hand is steady on your back, urging, not pushing, you forward. Open your heart. Open your eyes. And most importantly, open now. Because time is speaking, and heaven is waiting for your response. My precious one, as this message continues, I need you to lean in with your spirit, not just your ears. What Archangel Michael reveals now is not about noise or drama, but about alignment. Many people miss divine timing because they are looking for thunder, when God is speaking through urgency. The pressure you feel is not panic, it is precision. Heaven is narrowing your focus because distraction has been draining your strength. Archangel Michael says something important must be understood right now. Not every open door is a blessing, and not every closed door is rejection. In these next hours, discernment matters more than effort. You may feel pulled in multiple directions, but only one direction carries peace beneath the fear. That is how you will recognize it. Fear will be present, yes, but peace will sit underneath it like a foundation. That is the path marked by God. You have been asking why things felt stalled recently, why progress slowed, why answers seemed delayed. Archangel Michael says it was mercy. God paused certain outcomes so you would not step into them unprepared. But that pause is ending. The protection is lifting, and now responsibility returns to you. This is why the next 24 hours feel heavy. Weight returns and choice returns. There is also something else happening that you must not overlook. Heaven is watching how you respond to this message. Not because God needs proof, but because your response determines your positioning. When you act in obedience, even with trembling hands, alignment follows. When you hesitate, confusion multiplies. This is spiritual law, not punishment. Some of you are standing at the edge of a change involving work, purpose, or direction. Others are facing a truth about a relationship, a habit, or a calling you tried to shrink so it would fit into comfort. Archangel Michael says shrinking your calling has cost you joy. You were never meant to live quietly inside something that limits your spirit. Hear this clearly. Obedience does not always feel holy in the moment. Sometimes it feels disruptive. Sometimes it feels risky. Sometimes it feels like you are losing control. But control was never your assignment. Trust was. This is why God urges you not to delay. Delay is the silent agreement with fear. And fear has already taken enough from you. As this message reaches you, something is activating internally. A resolve, a firmness, a quiet yes forming in your chest. Do not ignore that. Speak it out loud if you have to. Heaven responds to spoken alignment. And listen carefully now, because this is where many people miss the blessing. Do not walk this message alone. When you like this video, when you share it, when you leave a comment declaring that you received this word, you are not feeding an algorithm. You are participating in agreement. Agreement multiplies impact. Someone else is waiting for this same confirmation, and God may use your action to deliver it. If this message resonates with your spirit, subscribe to this channel and stay connected. These words are not released casually. They are released on assignment. When you stay connected, you stay positioned to receive what heaven continues to reveal. This is how momentum builds, through consistency, not curiosity alone. Archangel Michael says community matters more in this season than independence. You were not meant to discern everything alone. Even angels operate in ranks, not isolation. Now, let me speak to the hesitation still lingering in your heart. You may be thinking, what if I make the wrong move? God answers that question with love. Obedience can be corrected, but disobedience delays growth. If your heart is seeking God, He will guide your steps even while you move. But He will not steer a parked vehicle. This next instruction is subtle but powerful. Do one thing today that aligns with the future you have been praying for. Not 10 things. Not everything. One obedient action. Send the message. Make the decision. Set the boundary. Begin the task. That single step creates a ripple in the spiritual realm. Archangel Michael says once you take that step, resistance you have felt will weaken faster than you expect. What felt heavy will begin to feel manageable. What felt impossible will begin to organize itself. And before this message continues further, let me say this from the heart. Stay with this word. What is coming next connects directly to what you are sensing right now. This is one of those moments where leaving early would mean missing the clarity you asked God for. Hold on, because what unfolds next brings confirmation that will settle your spirit and sharpen your direction. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are being called forward. And heaven is watching what you choose to do next. My beloved one, what unfolds now is delicate, sacred, and deeply personal. Archangel Michael steps closer in this moment, not with a sword raised, but with clarity sharpened by truth. There is something being illuminated in your life that you have sensed for a long time but could not fully name. This is the hour when hidden patterns are revealed, not to shame you, but to free you. God says the delay you experienced was not wasted time. It was preparation. During that waiting, your discernment was trained. Your spirit learned what your mind could not yet understand. That is why now, when the urgency rises, you are not confused the way you once were. You are aware. Awareness is the first sign of readiness. Archangel Michael reveals that a cycle is ending. Not dramatically, not loudly, but decisively. Something that once had permission in your life is losing its authority. It could be an influence, a mindset, a relationship dynamic, or even a version of yourself that survived by shrinking. Heaven says its assignment is complete. This is why the choice before you feels emotional. You are not just choosing a future. You are releasing a past identity that kept you safe but limited. Letting go always feels heavier right before the grip loosens. God wants you to hear this with precision. You are not being asked to abandon everything. You are being asked to align everything. Alignment feels uncomfortable because it exposes what no longer fits. Archangel Michael says that spiritual acceleration often comes disguised as discomfort. When God speeds things up, it can feel like pressure because resistance is being removed. What once slowed you will no longer have permission after this window closes. There is also a spiritual exchange happening now. Heaven is responding to the prayers you prayed in silence, the ones you whispered when no one else was listening. Those prayers reached God, but the answer required your consent to unfold. Consent is given through obedience. Some of you have been asking for clarity about your purpose, others about provision, others about protection. God says the answer to all three is connected to this decision. When you step where He leads, purpose sharpens, provision follows, and protection activates. This is not coincidence. This is orchestration. Archangel Michael says you have been under spiritual covering even when you felt exposed. That is why certain things that should have broken you did not. That is why you are still standing. And now that same covering is urging you forward, not backward. Do not look for external confirmation anymore. This message is the confirmation. The peace you feel even while trembling is your signal. Peace does not mean absence of fear. It means presence of God. And now hear this carefully. When you respond to this word, even privately, heaven responds publicly in ways you will recognize later. Obedience always leaves evidence. You are closer than you think. The finish line of this season is not far, but the final step still belongs to you. Archangel Michael says, choose alignment over delay, truth over comfort, movement over hesitation. And as this revelation seals itself in your spirit, take a moment to anchor it. Type "I receive the divine timing" in the comments if this message has reached your heart. Blessing code 848 has just been released over those who align with this word. Now, let me speak directly to those whose spirit is burning right now. This message did not come to entertain. It came to rescue, to awaken, to realign. And God is saying that what He is doing through this channel is bigger than a single video. Souls are being reached in moments of urgency, just like yours. I hear the Lord say, those who water others in their critical hour will not lack in their own. When you support this mission, you are sowing into light that reaches people at crossroads. You are placing oil where lamps are flickering. This is not about helping a channel. It is about advancing God's voice in moments where delay could cost destiny. This is my invitation to you. If this word has strengthened you, act on it. Release your seed through Super Thanks, through membership, or through PayPal. The links are waiting in the description. Let your giving become a prophetic response, not a transaction. I bless every giver now. May what you release return to you pressed down, shaken together, and running over. May doors open quickly. May clarity come swiftly. May heaven respond to your obedience with favor that cannot be denied. Do not hesitate. Obey while the window is open. Sow while the ground is fertile. Act now, because this moment matters. My beloved child, as this message continues, the atmosphere shifts from urgency into understanding. What was once pressure now becomes perspective. Archangel Michael says this is the moment where confusion begins to untangle, where what felt overwhelming starts to make sense. This is not because the situation has changed, but because you are changing. There is a quiet strengthening happening inside you right now. You may not feel powerful, but you are becoming steady. And steadiness is what heaven needs from you in this season. God is not asking for emotional reactions anymore. He is asking for rooted decisions. Archangel Michael reveals that the reason this timing feels so precise is because multiple threads of your life are converging at once. Things you thought were separate, your past struggles, recent delays, unexpected encounters, even disappointments, are aligning into a single point of choice. This convergence is not accidental. It is intentional. You are stepping into a season where God will respond quickly to obedience. That is both a promise and a responsibility. When response is fast, hesitation costs more. This is why heaven has been so clear with you now. God would never hold you accountable for what He did not first reveal. There is something you must understand about spiritual doors. They do not close because God is angry. They close because seasons expire. Just like harvest windows, they must be entered on time. Archangel Michael said December 27th marked a turning of the hourglass, not as a threat, but as a signal. Some of you are still wrestling with the thought, what if I fail after I move? God answers gently. Failure does not disqualify obedience. Refusal does. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he did not fail because he sank. He failed only when he doubted the one who called him. And even then, the hand of God lifted him. So hear this truth settle into your spirit. God is not testing your perfection. He is inviting your trust. Archangel Michael also speaks of restoration, not the kind that simply returns what was lost, but the kind that returns its strengthened. What comes next will not look exactly like what you lost. It will be wiser, clearer, better aligned with who you have become. You may notice that your tolerance for certain things is decreasing. Conversations that once drained you now feel unbearable. Environments that once felt normal now feel heavy. This is not judgment. This is growth. God is refining your discernment so you do not re-enter spaces that cannot sustain your next level. This is also why solitude has played a role recently. Heaven pulled you back so your voice could be purified, so that when you speak, act, or decide now, it comes from alignment, not impulse. Archangel Michael says your spirit has matured enough to carry what is coming. That is why the invitation is real, not theoretical. You would not be called if you were not ready. Now let this next truth anchor you. When you move forward, not everyone will understand. Some will question your timing. Others will misunderstand your silence or your boundaries. That is not your burden to carry. Obedience often looks lonely before it looks fruitful. God says, "Let me handle perception. You handle alignment." There is also a reassurance being released right now. You are not late. Even if you feel behind, heaven measures time differently. The only time you lose is the time you refuse to move when called. Everything else can be redeemed. Archangel Michael reminds you that you are protected while you obey. This does not mean there will be no resistance. It means resistance will not have authority over you. Opposition does not equal defeat. Sometimes it is confirmation that you are stepping into territory that matters. As this message deepens, allow peace to settle. Not the peace that comes from having all answers, but the peace that comes from knowing who is leading you. That peace is your compass. You are not being rushed into chaos. You are being guided into order. In the coming days, you will notice subtle confirmations. A conversation that aligns perfectly. A thought that repeats with clarity. A door that opens without force. These are heaven's whispers saying, "You chose correctly." Archangel Michael says, do not second-guess what God has already confirmed. Doubt after obedience is the enemy's last attempt to steal momentum. Guard your decision by standing firm in it. My beloved child, the weight you carried into this message is not meant to follow you forward. You are allowed to release it. You are allowed to trust. You are allowed to move without apology. What lies ahead is not uncertainty, it is unfolding. And as this word continues, what is coming next will reveal how God turns your obedience into acceleration in ways you could not plan, predict, or control, but will recognize as undeniably divine. My beloved child, as this message unfolds further, the tone shifts again, not into urgency, but into assurance. What God is doing now is settling your spirit so you do not move from emotion, but from conviction. Archangel Michael says this is the phase where heaven reinforces what has already been spoken, because reinforcement creates stability. There is something powerful happening beneath the surface of your life right now. Even if externally nothing seems different, spiritually things are reorganizing. Old permissions are being revoked. New authority is being assigned. You are stepping into a posture where you no longer react to everything. You discern, then respond. God wants you to understand why this matters so deeply. The next season of your life will require clarity more than effort. You will not succeed by trying harder, but by seeing clearer. That is why God slowed you down before speeding you up. Rushing without vision creates exhaustion. Movement with vision creates momentum. Archangel Michael reveals that you are being repositioned, not replaced. Some of you feared that your delay meant you were disqualified. That lie ends now. Heaven does not discard those it trains. Waiting was not a pause in purpose. It was preparation for responsibility. You may notice that certain desires are changing. What once felt important now feels empty. What once felt intimidating now feels necessary. This shift is not accidental. God is recalibrating your appetite so you crave what sustains you, not what distracts you. There is also a healing happening in how you see yourself. Shame has quietly lost its grip. Comparison is losing its voice. Archangel Michael says this is because you are stepping into self-awareness without self-condemnation. You are learning to see yourself the way God sees you, capable, growing, and chosen. This is why your decisions now carry more weight. You are no longer deciding from survival mode. You are deciding from alignment. And alignment carries authority. God speaks clearly here. You are allowed to outgrow what once helped you survive. Survival tools are not meant to become permanent homes. If you stayed where you were, you would eventually feel confined, frustrated, and disconnected from joy. The discomfort you felt earlier was a signal, not a flaw. Archangel Michael also speaks about trust. Trust does not mean knowing every step ahead. It means believing that God will reveal the next step when you need it. This is how faith stays alive, through dependence, not control. Some of you are learning to release the need to explain yourselves. You used to over-justify your choices because you doubted your own discernment. That season is ending. When God leads, explanation becomes optional. Obedience speaks louder than defense. There is a warning here, spoken gently. Do not revisit old options simply because they feel familiar. Familiarity is not confirmation. The past will try to call you back when the future feels uncertain. That does not mean the past has authority. It only means it recognizes it is losing influence. Archangel Michael says stand firm in what you have already decided in your heart. The enemy often attacks after obedience, not before. His goal is to make you question what God has already confirmed. Recognize this tactic and refuse to engage it. Peace is your indicator. Not comfort, not ease, but peace. Peace may coexist with challenge, but it never coexists with confusion. If something pulls you back into confusion, it is not aligned with where God is leading you now. God also wants you to know that you are not behind schedule. Heaven does not measure progress the way the world does. Faithfulness weighs more than speed. Depth matters more than visibility. You are exactly where you need to be to step into what is next. As this message continues to build, there is a strengthening happening in your resolve. You may feel quieter than before, but that quiet is not weakness. It is focus. Focus is what allows you to hear God clearly without interference. Archangel Michael says the next moves you make will be simpler than you expect. Complexity is leaving. Order is coming. You will not have to force doors open. The right ones will respond to alignment naturally. Let your heart settle into this truth. You are not walking alone. Heaven is involved in the details of your obedience. Every sincere step matters. Every aligned choice counts. And as this word continues forward, what comes next will show you how God uses consistency, not intensity, to bring lasting transformation into your life. My beloved child, as this message flows deeper, Archangel Michael brings your attention to something very practical yet profoundly spiritual: consistency. What God is establishing in this season is not built on emotional highs. but on daily alignment. Breakthrough does not always arrive with fireworks. Often, it arrives quietly, carried by disciplined obedience repeated over time. You have reached a point where small decisions matter more than dramatic declarations. Heaven is watching what you choose when no one is applauding, when there is no urgency pushing you, when it would be easier to return to old habits. These moments shape your future more than you realize. Archangel Michael says this season will reward those who remain steady. You no longer need to chase confirmation everywhere. God has already spoken. Now He is watching how you steward what you heard. Revelation without application becomes frustration, but revelation acted upon becomes transformation. There is also a refining happening in how you spend your energy. You are learning where to say no without guilt, where to pause without fear, where to commit without hesitation. This refinement is protecting you from burnout and distraction. God is teaching you to move with intention, not impulse. Some of you have been tempted to rush ahead just to feel progress. But Archangel Michael warns that premature movement creates unnecessary resistance. Timing matters as much as obedience. Waiting for God's release is not laziness. It is wisdom. You are not behind because you pause. You fall behind only when you move without direction. God is also strengthening your voice. You may notice that when you speak now, you choose your words more carefully. Silence has become valuable to you. That is because discernment has matured. When you do speak, it will carry weight. When you act, it will carry authority. This is why staying connected to this message matters. When you like this video, when you share it, when you comment declaring your agreement, you are reinforcing what God is building inside you. These actions are not casual. They train your spirit to respond instead of retreat. They keep you engaged with what heaven is doing right now. If this channel has been a place of clarity for you, subscribe and stay aligned. What is being released here is meant to guide you step by step, not just inspire you briefly. Consistency in living leads to consistency in living. And that consistency is what unlocks long-term change. Archangel Michael also speaks about protection. As you remain aligned, you are covered in ways you may never fully see. Certain things will simply miss you. Certain conflicts will dissolve before reaching you. This is not luck. This is divine shielding activated by obedience. However, do not mistake protection for comfort. You may still face challenges, but challenges will no longer confuse you. They will clarify your priorities. You will recognize distractions faster. You will disengage sooner. Growth sharpens awareness. God is also healing your relationship with time. You used to feel pressure, anxiety, and comparison. Now you are learning to move at God's pace, not the world's. This shift alone will bring peace into areas that once felt constantly rushed. Archangel Michael says the enemy's strategy now is subtle. He will try to make you bored with obedience. He will whisper that consistency is dull, that repetition means nothing is happening. That is a lie. Roots grow in silence. Foundations form underground. What looks uneventful is often where the most important work is happening. Stay steady. And hear this next part carefully. What is coming next in this message connects directly to a breakthrough many people miss because they disengage too early. This is where understanding deepens, where clarity sharpens. Hold on, because what follows will answer a question you have been carrying quietly. God is not finished speaking. Archangel Michael is still guiding. And what unfolds next will help you recognize the signs that confirm you are exactly where you are meant to be. Remain present. Remain open. The next revelation matters more than you think. My beloved child, as this message continues, a deeper layer of understanding is being opened to you. Archangel Michael now speaks not just about where you are going, but about how you will recognize that you are truly aligned. Many people expect alignment to feel loud or dramatic, but heaven says true alignment feels settled. It feels firm. It feels like an inner knowing that does not need to argue with doubt. You may notice that your reactions are changing. Situations that once triggered fear or urgency no longer have the same power over you. This is not because you have become indifferent, but because you have become anchored. Anchored people are not easily shaken. They still feel, but they do not spiral. This is a sign of spiritual maturity. Archangel Michael reveals that one of the greatest confirmations of obedience is peace in the middle of uncertainty. When you are aligned, questions may remain, but panic disappears. That disappearance is not accidental. It is evidence that God is carrying what you can no longer control. Some of you have been watching external signs closely, hoping for something unmistakable. God says the clearest confirmation is internal consistency. When your thoughts, actions, and values begin to line up without effort, alignment is already in motion. You are no longer forcing yourself to do the right thing. You simply do it. There is also a strengthening of discernment happening now. You are becoming quicker at recognizing what drains you versus what builds you. Conversations that once felt neutral now reveal their weight. Choices that once seemed small now show their long-term impact. This awareness is not meant to burden you. It is meant to protect you. Archangel Michael says you are entering a phase where God will trust you with quieter instructions. Not everything will come with urgency or emotion. Sometimes the instruction will be gentle, almost easy to miss. This is why stillness matters. Stillness sharpens hearing. You are also learning to release outcomes. Earlier, you tried to predict how things would unfold. And now, you are learning to focus on obedience and let God handle results. This shift is freeing you from unnecessary pressure. When outcomes are surrendered, obedience becomes lighter. God wants you to know that growth is happening even when you feel ordinary. Do not underestimate normal days. Consistent faithfulness during ordinary moments builds extraordinary stability. Archangel Michael says heaven celebrates what you overlook. There is also a healing taking place in how you relate to the past. Memories that once carried regret are losing their sting. You are no longer looking back with condemnation, but with understanding. This healing allows you to move forward without dragging old weight behind you. Some of you are beginning to feel a quiet confidence returning. Not arrogance, not pride, but assurance. Assurance rooted in knowing you are walking with God, not ahead of Him or behind Him. This assurance will guide your tone, your timing, and your decisions. Archangel Michael also speaks about boundaries. Alignment often requires adjusting access. You are not closing your heart, but you are closing doors that allowed confusion, manipulation, or unnecessary influence. Boundaries are not rejection. They are stewardship. God says do not feel guilty for protecting what He is building. Not everyone who had access before can walk with you now. This is not a judgment on them. It is an acknowledgement of your growth. You may also notice that your prayers are changing. You are asking less for signs and more for wisdom. Less for escape and more for strength. This shift shows that trust is deepening, but your prayer reflects mature faith. Archangel Michael says this is a season where obedience will feel simpler, but more intentional. You are no longer trying to prove your faith. You are living it quietly. Heaven honors this posture. There is reassurance here for those who feel unseen. God sees consistency even when people do not. He records faithfulness that never gets applause. Nothing aligned is wasted. As this message continues to unfold, allow this truth to anchor you. Alignment is not about speed, visibility, or perfection. It is about direction. And your direction is now clear. What comes next will reveal how God confirms alignment not through noise, but through fruit. Through outcomes that reflect His hand. Through doors that open without force. Through peace that remains even when circumstances shift. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. The next revelation will help you recognize the evidence of God's work already unfolding around you. My beloved child, as this message reaches deeper into your spirit, Archangel Michael now speaks of evidence. Not the kind the world demands, but the kind heaven provides. Alignment always produces fruit, and fruit always appears quietly before it is seen publicly. What God is doing now is teaching you how to recognize His confirmation without needing constant reassurance. You may have noticed subtle shifts already. A conversation that resolved without conflict. A delay that turned into protection. A sudden clarity about what no longer belongs in your life. These are not coincidences. They are markers. Heaven leaves markers along the path so you know you are walking correctly. Archangel Michael says when God is involved, things begin to organize themselves. What once felt chaotic starts to arrange into order. You are not forcing solutions anymore. They are forming naturally. This is one of the strongest signs that obedience hath been accepted. There is also a deepening trust happening within you. You are no longer asking, what if this fails? As often. Instead, you are asking, what is God teaching me here? That shift in questioning changes everything. It moves you from fear into partnership with God. God wants you to understand something important now. Not every blessing arrives as increase. Some arrive as removal. When God takes something away, it is often because it was limiting what He was about to release. Loss under obedience is never punishment. It is preparation. Archangel Michael reveals that some of the peace you feel now came from endings you did not fully understand at the time. Looking back, you may realize that what hurt then is what freed you now. Heaven redeems even painful transitions. There is also a strengthening of patience taking place. Not passive patience, but confident patience. The kind that knows movement is happening even when waiting is required. This patience will protect you from impulsive decisions that look good short-term but cost you long-term peace. God says your discernment has sharpened enough that you no longer need to react quickly. You can pause. You can pray. You can choose deliberately. This ability alone will save you from unnecessary detours. Archangel Michael also speaks of alignment in relationships. You may notice that some connections feel lighter, more mutual, more life-giving. Others may fade naturally without conflict. Do not chase what God is quietly releasing. Trust the pruning. Pruning always precedes growth. There is reassurance for those who worry they might miss God's will. You will not miss what is meant for you when your heart is surrendered. God is more invested in guiding you than you are in finding the perfect step. Rest in that truth. Now let this next moment anchor the revelation. Type "I walk in divine alignment" in the comments if this message confirms what your spirit already knows. Blessing code 912 is now activated over those who receive this word. This message is not isolated. God is using this platform as a river, carrying living water to people standing at critical crossroads, just like you were when this word found you. When you support this mission, you are not supporting content. You are supporting timing. You are helping God reach someone before delay costs them direction. I hear the Lord say, Whoever releases oil in a moment of urgency will never lack light in their own night. Your support through super thanks, membership, or PayPal becomes a prophetic seed. It moves this word beyond you, into homes, hearts, and moments where heaven must speak quickly. This is my first-person invitation to you. I am asking you to partner with this assignment now, not later, not when it feels convenient. Now, while the ground is open and the word is active. The PayPal donation link is waiting in the description, along with ways to support directly here. I speak blessing over every giver. May God respond to your obedience with clarity where you need answers, speed where you've experienced delay, and peace where uncertainty tried to settle. May your seed speak for you in places you cannot reach yourself. Do not hesitate. Act while the window is open. Obey while the word is alive. Release your support now, and watch how heaven responds. My beloved child, as this message moves forward, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to endurance. What God is building in you at this stage is not excitement, but resilience. Excitement fades quickly, but resilience carries you through seasons where progress is quiet and growth is internal. You may find that this phase of your journey feels less dramatic than earlier moments. That does not mean nothing is happening. It means what is happening is stable. God often removes emotional intensity when He wants to strengthen your foundation. A steady heart can carry more responsibility than an anxious one. Archangel Michael says this is the stage where many people become impatient. They mistake calm for stagnation and stillness for delay. But heaven says stability is evidence of alignment. When you are truly aligned, you are no longer constantly reacting. You are responding with wisdom. There is also a deep trust forming between you and God. You are learning that not every prayer needs immediate visible results to be effective. Some prayers work underground. They shift systems, soften hearts, and prepare timing before anything changes on the surface. God wants you to understand that endurance is not passive waiting. It is active faithfulness. It is choosing integrity when shortcuts appear. It is choosing patience when pressure invites compromise. Every time you choose rightly in a small moment, you strengthen your spiritual endurance. Archangel Michael also speaks of refinement. Certain habits are being refined, not removed. God is not stripping everything away. He is adjusting how you carry responsibility. You are learning balance. Balance protects longevity. Some of you are being trained for leadership in ways you did not expect. Leadership is not always visible. Sometimes it is simply learning how to govern your emotions, your reactions, and your time. Those who cannot lead themselves cannot sustain influence over others. You may notice that your emotions feel more regulated. You recover faster from disappointment. You no longer spiral the way you once did. These changes may seem small, but they are powerful. They show maturity. Archangel Michael says, do not underestimate the value of emotional steadiness. It is one of the clearest signs of spiritual growth. When storms no longer dictate your direction, you are ready to steward greater responsibility. There is also encouragement here for those who feel unseen. God sees endurance even when people do not. Heaven records faithfulness that never becomes public testimony. Nothing aligned is forgotten. God also wants to correct a subtle lie you may still believe. Progress does not always feel rewarding in the moment. Sometimes it feels ordinary. But ordinary obedience produces extraordinary outcomes over time. Archangel Michael speaks peace into your patience. You are not being delayed. You are being strengthened. The pace you are moving at now is intentional. Rushing would weaken what God is solidifying. Some of you are also learning to let go of control in deeper ways. You are no longer trying to manage outcomes. You are learning to manage obedience. This shift frees you from unnecessary anxiety. God says your future does not depend on you getting everything right. It depends on you staying aligned. Alignment allows God to correct, redirect, and protect you along the way. As this message continues, allow your heart to rest. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to chase confirmation. What God has promised will unfold in His timing. Archangel Michael says endurance is what keeps you present when others quit. Many people start with passion, but few remain with patience. You are becoming one who remains. And what unfolds next will speak directly to the reward of endurance. Not in vague promises, but in clear understanding of how God brings visible fruit after quiet faithfulness. Stay open. Stay steady. The next revelation will show you how what you are building now will soon become undeniable evidence of God's hand at work in your life. My beloved child, as this message continues, Archangel Michael now speaks about visibility. Not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that naturally follows obedience. There is a moment coming when what God has been building quietly in you will begin to show on the outside. This is not exposure for pride, but manifestation for purpose. For a long time, your growth happened internally. Changes in mindset, discipline, discernment, and patience were invisible to most people. That season was necessary. God never exposes what is not yet stable. But now, stability has formed, and stability can be trusted with visibility. Archangel Michael says you are entering a phase where your decisions will carry weight beyond your personal life. Others will be affected by your obedience, even if they never know the full story. Your consistency is creating an atmosphere. People around you will feel it before they understand it. This is also why opposition may briefly increase. Visibility attracts both favor and resistance. Do not be alarmed. Resistance does not mean you are off track. Often, it confirms that movement is happening. What matters is that resistance no longer controls your reactions. God is strengthening your ability to stay focused even when distractions appear. You are learning not to explain yourself unnecessarily, not to defend every choice, not to react to every opinion. This focus will protect your momentum. Archangel Michael reminds you that humility will be your greatest safeguard in visibility. Stay teachable. Stay prayerful. Stay aligned. Visibility without humility creates pressure. Visibility with humility creates influence. You may notice that opportunities begin to appear naturally. Invitations, ideas, conversations, and openings that require less force than before. Disease is not coincidence. It is alignment bearing fruit. When God opens doors, effort decreases and clarity increases. God also wants you to remain engaged in what He is doing through this message. When you like this video, when you share it with someone who needs direction, when you comment in agreement, you are strengthening the flow of this word. These actions keep you connected to the movement of what God is releasing. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do so now and stay positioned. This is not about numbers. It is about staying aligned with a stream of guidance meant to help you navigate critical moments with clarity instead of confusion. Staying connected keeps you grounded. Archangel Michael says there are still layers of understanding unfolding. This is not the moment to disengage. What comes next connects directly to what you are beginning to see emerge in your life. Hold on, because this next revelation ties visibility to responsibility in a way that will sharpen your discernment. God is also teaching you restraint. Just because you can move quickly does not mean you should. Wisdom chooses timing carefully. You are learning to wait for God's release even when you have the ability to act sooner. This restraint will protect what God is building. There is reassurance for those who fear exposure. God will never reveal you without covering you. When He lifts you, He also shields you. When He promotes you, He also instructs you. You are not stepping into this alone. Archangel Michael says, do not shrink back when you sense growth. Growth requires space. Allow yourself to expand without guilt. You are not becoming prideful by accepting what God is giving. You are becoming faithful. Some of you will soon recognize that your voice carries more authority than before. When you speak, people listen differently. When you decide, outcomes shift faster. This authority did not come overnight. It was built through quiet obedience. God says, guard your heart during this time. Do not compare your journey to others. Visibility looks different for everyone. Your assignment is unique. Stay focused on what God has entrusted to you. As this message continues to unfold, there is a clarity coming about how to steward what God is revealing. Visibility without stewardship creates loss. Visibility with stewardship creates legacy. Remain present. Remain attentive. You will want to hear what comes next, because it explains how God ensures that what He begins in you is sustained long after it appears. Do not step away now. This next movement of the message holds wisdom that will help you protect what God is bringing into the open. My beloved child, as this message moves closer to its final unfolding, Archangel Michael now speaks with a tone of guardianship. This is the stage where heaven teaches you how to protect what has been given. Many people know how to receive a blessing, but few know how to steward it. Stewardship is what determines longevity. What God is entrusting to you now, whether clarity, influence, peace, provision, or direction, requires awareness. Not fear, not suspicion, but awareness. You are being taught to recognize what strengthens alignment and what quietly erodes it. This discernment is one of the greatest gifts of maturity. Archangel Michael says this is why your tolerance for distraction is lower. You no longer have energy for unnecessary conflict, meaningless debate, or emotional chaos. Your spirit is conserving strength for what matters. That is wisdom, not withdrawal. There is also a refining happening in how you listen. You are learning the difference between voices that inform and voices that confuse. Not every opinion deserves access to your decision-making. God is training you to weigh counsel without surrendering discernment. You may notice that you are becoming more selective with your time. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship. Time is a currency, and God is teaching you to invest it where it produces life, not drain. Archangel Michael also speaks about guarding your inner world. What you allow into your thoughts, your conversations, your focus will either nourish what God is building or weaken it. You are becoming more intentional about what you consume mentally and emotionally. This intention will preserve your peace. God wants you to understand something clearly now. Protection does not mean isolation. You are not called to withdraw from the world. You are called to move through it with clarity. Boundaries allow engagement without compromise. There is also a lesson here about pace. God is not asking you to maintain constant intensity. He is teaching you rhythm. Rhythm allows rest without losing momentum. It allows progress without burnout. You are learning when to move and when to pause. Archangel Michael says this rhythm will keep you from self-sabotage. Many people lose what they prayed for because they exhaust themselves trying to sustain it in their own strength. God is showing you how to remain dependent on Him even as responsibility increases. You may feel a deeper sense of accountability now. Not pressure, but responsibility. Responsibility feels different when it is rooted in purpose rather than fear. You are not afraid of losing what God gives. You are committed to honoring it. There is also reassurance here for those who still feel moments of uncertainty. Stewardship does not mean you will never question yourself. It means you know where to bring your questions. You are learning to return to God quickly instead of spiraling internally. Archangel Michael speaks peace over your leadership, whether visible or unseen. Leadership begins in how you govern yourself. You are doing that more faithfully than you realize. God also says this: "Do not romanticize the past or fear the future. Stay present." Presence is where obedience lives. When you stay present, you hear God clearly. When you stay present, you respond accurately. You may notice that some opportunities will require discernment, not excitement. Not every open door is meant to be entered immediately. God will teach you which doors are invitations and which are distractions. Trust His timing. Archangel Michael says this is a season where your no is just as powerful as your yes. Saying no to what drains you preserves strength for what God has assigned to you. Do not feel guilty for protecting alignment. There is also quiet joy forming. Not loud celebration, but contentment. Contentment rooted in knowing you are walking in step with God. This joy will sustain you when circumstances fluctuate. As this message approaches its final movement, allow gratitude to settle in your heart. Gratitude anchors stewardship. When you recognize what God has done, you naturally protect it with care. You have come far, further than you give yourself credit for. What you carry now is not fragile. It is forming into something stable, enduring, and purposeful. And as this word prepares to conclude, what comes next will seal everything that has been spoken. It will release a final alignment, a final blessing, and a final instruction that brings this entire message into completion. Remain open. Remain receptive. The closing of this word carries weight, authority, and release. My beloved child, we have arrived at a sacred closing, not an ending but a sealing. Archangel Michael now stands firmly, not to warn, not to urge but to confirm. What God has spoken through this message is not temporary inspiration. It is a marker placed in your life. From this moment forward, you will be able to look back and say, "That was when alignment became real." Heaven says you are no longer standing at the edge. You have stepped in. Even if nothing outward feels dramatic yet, spiritually the shift has already occurred. Decisions have been registered. Obedience hath been noted. Alignment hath been activated. Archangel Michael declares that the season ahead will require trust, but not the fragile kind you once struggled with. This will be grounded trust. Trust built on experience, not assumption. You have seen enough of God's faithfulness to know He does not abandon what He begins. Here is a final release happening now. God is lifting unnecessary weight from your spirit. Regret over missed timing is being healed. Fear of repeating old cycles is losing authority. You are not walking into the future as the person you once were. You are walking as someone refined by obedience. Heaven wants you to understand this clearly. The urgency has served its purpose. The door you were meant to step through has been entered. And now, peace becomes your companion. Not passive peace, but active peace, the kind that allows you to move forward without second-guessing every step. Archangel Michael says that clarity will continue to unfold, but it will unfold as you walk, not before. Faith does not reveal the entire path at once. It reveals enough to take the next step with confidence. You may still face moments of uncertainty, but they will no longer destabilize you. You have learned how to return to alignment quickly. That skill alone will save you years of unnecessary struggle. God also speaks restoration here. Not restoration that recreates the past, but restoration that redeems it. What was lost will return in mighty forms. What was delayed will arrive with purpose. Nothing surrendered in obedience is ever wasted. This is a moment of sealing. Let your heart receive it fully. Type "I step into my God-appointed path" in the comments if you receive this final confirmation. Blessing code 1440 is now activated over your obedience, your future, and your alignment. This message reached you because God is using this space as a divine signal tower. When time is critical, God sends His word quickly. And when you support this mission, you help keep that signal strong for someone else standing at the edge of delay. I speak to you directly now, first person, as a servant carrying this assignment. If this word guided you, steadied you, or shifted your direction, then respond prophetically. Release your support now, not later, not when it feels convenient. Now, while obedience is still warm in your spirit. The Lord says, those who sow in moments of divine urgency will reap in seasons of divine acceleration. Your super thanks, your membership, your PayPal seed, linked in the description, are not donations. They are acts of alignment. They push this word into homes where time is critical and hearts are waiting. I bless every supporter. May God honor your obedience with open doors, protected steps, and peace that cannot be shaken. May what you release today return to you multiplied, accelerated, and timed perfectly. Do not delay. Obey now. Support the mission now. And walk forward knowing heaven has confirmed your path.